Chris stood up on the spot.
Why is there a dragon in this world? This can't be a dream, and besides, this isn't the underground world, it's the surface.
Chris frowned at the mysterious event he was witnessing. The dragon's body was blue, and a young girl was riding on its long neck like a giraffe. Chris recognized the girl with wings on her back and long, curly blonde hair.
Hey, wait, it's coming this way.
Sana stood up as well, grabbing Chris' sleeve nervously.
Maybe it'll be okay,
Chris replied, still staring at the dragon. When the dragon arrived in front of them, it circled the castle and landed in the open space behind it. The dragon was bigger than Chris remembered. It's so tall that its entire head is sticking out over the wall. The girl on the dragon's back spread her wings, soared up, and landed softly on top of the castle. The long-hemmed dress she was wearing sparkled and changed color in the sunlight. Her height is not much different from Chris's. Her appearance was exactly as Chris had seen in his dream, even though more than 2,000 years have passed since then. The girl stared at Bibi for a moment, and then Bibi stopped barking. Then, wagging his tail, Bibi ran over to the girl. She squatted down and petted Bibi. The girl looked up at Chris.
Hey, aren't you more emotional? After all, we've finally met like this.
The girl's voice echoed directly in Chris' head. The girl stood up and placed her fists on her hips.
You wouldn't say you don't know me, would you?
Pressed for an answer, Chris remained silent and slowly shook his head.
Hello, it's been a while, what a surprise.
Chris turned his attention to the girl and replied silently through his thoughts. He was just imitating what he saw in his dream, but it seemed to work. The girl nodded with a bright smile, then looked as if she was about to burst into tears. Then she jumped up and suddenly hugged Chris.
Whoa, wait a second,
Chris said, panicking at the sudden turn of events and trying to pull the girl away. But the girl wouldn't leave. When Chris looked at Sana for help, she turned her face away. After a while, the girl finally released Chris. Tears had pooled in her jewel-like blue eyes as she gazed intently at Chris.
Theros, you are so small, you're even smaller than me,
the girl said, wiping away her tears with her hand. Chris angrily retorted to the girl's unexpected comment.
Of course, right now, I'm still just a child, and besides, my name isn't Theros anymore, it's Chris.
The girl took Chris' hand and nodded with a mischievous smile. Then Sana pulled the other sleeve of Chris and asked, "Who is this girl?" Sana's gaze was fixed on the girl.
Her name is Clare, she lives in the underground world.
Chris was at a loss for words as he turned to look at Clare. Chris didn't understand why Clare and the dragon Ramal were on the surface world in this era, and he didn't know how to explain it.
You're Emelua, aren't you?
Clare said, ignoring Chris' confusion. Then Sana frowned.
Did you just say that?
Sana asked, tilting her head suspiciously. Clare laughed.
Hey, you can properly catch my thoughts,
Clare said, still holding Chris' hand. Sana grabbed Chris' other sleeve, making him look like a scarecrow.
I'd heard about you, but this is the first time we've met,
Clare said, and Sana turned to look at Chris with a frown on her face. Then she let go of Chris' sleeve, folded her arms, and said,
Who the hell are you guys? You said I was Emelua, but how do you know that?
Sana then turned her gaze to Chris.
She called you Theros, too. That must be what I saw in my dream before, right? It is from my dream world, so why is Chris being called by that name by this girl? Besides, she has wings, and that dragon, everything is not normal. I feel like I'm going crazy.
Sana shook her head from side to side and put her hand to her forehead.
Is it so strange that I have wings?
Clare let go of Chris' hand, crossed her arms, and glared at Sana. Chris rushed in to intervene.
No, that's not what she meant. There are no winged people on Earth, and it's the first time Sana has seen a winged person, so she's just confused.
Sana sighed as Chris tried to explain.
I'm going home. What? Wait a minute.
Chris grabbed Sana's arm as she tried to leave, and she smiled weakly back.
It feels like I'm dreaming,
Sana said, and Chris began to doubt reality. Surely, this couldn't happen unless it was a dream. Then Clare shook her head in dismay.
Hey, what are you talking about? We came all the way here to see you. This can't be a dream, right? Both Ramal and I exist in the real world where you guys live,
Clare said, sighing deeply.
I thought you'd be more pleased.
Clare muttered sadly, looking down.
Ever since Pharos returned to the surface, I've been waiting for him to come back to us. But Pharos, you are completely forgotten about us. No matter how many times you've been reborn since then, you never remember me at all.
Clare looked as if she was about to burst into tears.
I came to see you because I thought you'd finally remembered.
I'm sorry. Chris spontaneously apologized. Chris had no idea about this until he saw it in his dream. However, thinking that she had been waiting like this for over 2,000 years made him feel quite distressed. As Chris looked apologetic, Clare looked up and stuck out her tongue.
Just kidding. It's true that I was waiting for an opportunity for you to remember. But there is no concept of time in the world we live in. We just accessed this era and came here like this. It's not like I waited tirelessly for what you, Pharos, know. Chris might think of as 2,000 years in the surface world,
Clare said, laughing mischievously. Chris was relieved to hear that. I see, that's good, Chris replied, and Clare glared at him.
It's not good at all. After that, no matter how many times you were reincarnated, you never remembered us. Every time that happened, it was such a shock to me.
Even though she said that, Chris had no recollection of it. But again, he apologized. Then Sana said, hey, and tugged on Chris' sleeve.
What does it mean, 2,000 years ago? Could it be that what I saw in my dream actually happened in my past life?
Sana had had many dreams in which she was a woman named Emalua. Sana secretly thought that perhaps it was a memory from a previous life. Chris turned around and told Sana the story of the secret he had been about to reveal earlier, his long dream.